Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast, a very special Tuesday edition. I'm your host, Josh, and of course, if you're hearing me, that means we're talking about something in-game related. I've got Joe joining me today because we got to get in here. We got to break down the Salvation's Edge raid. This is the longest it's taken the two of us, I think, to get a raid done from the time it's come out until we cleared it in a very long time.
Yes, and so I started heavily playing Destiny again. I've always at least gotten a week one clear.
Yeah.
And didn't do it this time.
This is the first raid since Garden that I haven't done within 4 days of it coming out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I realize that's not like super impressive because, you know, that's Deepstone, Vogue, Crota, Ron, and Vow. So, well, yeah, I mean, I guess Vow. Still, you know, getting Vow done in the first week was still an accomplishment. But yeah, man. So you actually went in on day one, in contest mode. I did not. I declined to go in. I did not join in the raid race this time. I sat this one out. And I'm kind of glad that I did because I had a lot. First off, I had a lot of fun watching friends who were doing it. The fact that almost everybody failed at first encounter was hilarious to me. And the very few teams that I saw that made it past there got really stumped at encounter number 2. And it's so funny, like when you see how to do it, it's like, oh, it was that easy.
So easy.
But on contest, I can see why it was hard. Encounter 3, you know, basically if you made it past encounter 2, you were doing encounter 3. Like, and then comes Verity, which Verity is up there in that no pun intended, veritable cornucopia of raid encounters that we try not to think too hard about because if we do, our brains hurt and we just start getting upset. It's up there with the likes of the Vault and Exhibition. Just something that, like, when you do it, you're like, what the fuck were you guys on? Like, what were you smoking? What were you doing?
They were cooking.
Man, all I know is I went to bed during the raid race, and I don't think a single team had made it to... I think one team maybe had made it to Witness. But I don't know. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think just about everybody was at 4th encounter that I had been watching. Dado, Salt, and Astacross were all at 4th encounter at one point. And I went to bed, woke up, and you, me, and John were in the we were all in a voice chat watching the end of the raid race. And it was like, oh my god, it's still going. No one's cleared. Like, I just took like a 6-hour snooze.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 7 o'clock in the morning. Like, we're making coffee. John hasn't gone to bed yet. And all of a sudden you knew it was getting serious because all we were seeing on people's streams were faces. It was just like close-ups of Dado and Salt, and it was like, oh, okay. So they're hiding. Now they're at least like hiding that. Like the watching the 4th encounter in retrospect is so funny because they have all the buffs and stuff blurred out
And blocked off. Yeah.
Oh, dude, it's like the most annoying thing to try and watch. Like, I understand why you do that. It's not fun for the rest of us to watch, though. Who are like, I get it.
I get it, though. Yeah, I get it. I would do the same thing in your shoes. Like they're
right.
They're going for a world championship title, essentially. Right. Like, that's important.
Can we also appreciate just how, like, the team that won was not a team anybody expected? Like, how cool that is. Because, like, I love this raid. I love the raid so much. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty of it here in a minute. But just, like, kind of talking about the contest mode really briefly. I love that it was a team that no one expected and that kind of came out of left field. And I think more shocking than that was this was the first raid that I can remember that Dado just kind of had to, like, set down and walk away and come back to later on.
Yeah, it defeated Dado.
It defeated Dado. The Witness defeated Dado. It was wild. But I think it's really cool that this isn't that hard. And it's funny, we always say this after we do the raid a couple times, right? Like, well, it's not that hard of a raid, once you know what you're doing. That's the whole point. Like
Oh yeah.
once you know what you're doing, also you're on normal with surges. So like the fact that we're two-facing the witness very very easily these days
Damn near one
already.
phasing.
Yeah, damn near one phasing in our clears. Um just absolutely wild, but I love so much what they did here in Salvation's Edge. So like loading in and just like the whole journey of the raid as you're climbing the citadel of the witness, and you come to find out that is the witness itself essentially that you're climbing up. It's very weird. Um I think that the design of this is just it's so cool, it's so complex and convoluted. The path you have to take to get to the first encounter is just wild. In the future, I will be sitting this one out and letting somebody pull me forward. I will not be making that 10-minute trek every time. Fuck that.
I love that it was like a little bit like a maze. Like
Yeah, a little bit.
I really love like I guess a maze because I
Yeah.
mean like to get to like the second portion there's legitimately like a secret path. So I really love that kind of like mystery in raids, like doing it and just like like it's a, a whole mystery and in and of itself.
Right. That's how I kind of
It's done this
felt.
perfect.
I thought it was very cool though. I think that this is just such a fascinating layout for a raid. It's not like that. Like Val was also this way when you were going through the pyramid for the first time, right? And you kind of get this a little bit in Ron. I think they learned from Val because like my major knock on Val is that opening encounter that's not really an encounter.
Yeah.
Like you don't actually get loot from. Um that's like my only major knock on it because here it feels like the fighting has a point and you're not like having to escort this super slow payload the whole way.
Yeah.
Um I really enjoy the opening to this though. The first encounter, um, what a weird little maze. I can understand why so many teams got stumped on day one because there's so many rotations you have to do in killing the tormentors, and God forbid you have to fight a subjugator by yourself on contest.
Oh yeah.
Um, I mean, it was bad enough when I had to face one by myself here. um, But once you get down, it's not too bad. It's teaching you the basic mechanic of the raid, like a lot of them do. And like this is a really good raid where it just keeps building on itself through the first three encounters. And then, the fourth one is just completely out of left field.
Yeah.
Um like it's a true test of the witness. Like the witness is like, "Oh, okay, you want to fuck around? Let's fuck around." Um that's kind of like his like Rolk taking off the gloves moment. Like, oh, okay, I'm gonna test you to see if you're worthy of even daring to challenge me at this point.
Yeah.
Um,
I oh it,
oh my god,
now
dude, you,
and now that I understand it, like it's such a good encounter, especially with like the randomization of like what jobs people get into.
yeah, I think that encounter one, pretty much speaks for itself. Encounter two is where I think the raid really picks up. I find encounter two to be really fascinating because you fight every type of enemy throughout this raid also, which I found really cool. Like the only thing you really don't fight are actual fallen. You
Yeah.
fight everything else at some point. You don't fight actual fallen. And I found that to be really interesting. Um like you don't fight House Salvation at all, to my knowledge or my recollection.
No,
Um
I don't think you do.
I think that's an interesting twist to me because you don't really fight them much in the Pale Heart either. Like I don't think you fight them in the campaign hardly at all.
I think a lot of them kind of dipped out
I
because
mean, or they're dead.
Aramis dipped out
Because
too.
frankly,
So,
we've killed a lot of them.
oh
So,
yeah,
and they address it at the end of the campaign, saying how salvation is in disarray with no leader and this and that. I imagine that's where Fickrell steps in.
that's where
But
power vacuums Vickrell's
I
getting
mean, it
into
was
for
pretty much
sure.
already being said that if you weren't part of House Light, you were probably being hunted to extinction. You
Yeah.
know, that was part of why Mithrax brought House Light in. But that's neither here nor there. Encounter 2, really Taken based. I think that's part of why I like Encounter 2. I like fighting the Taken. They've made them interesting again to me. Like, whatever design change they did, like making the crit spots super yellow, is a great
Oh yeah,
addition.
the eyes being yellow now instead of
Oh my god, yeah, it's not
whatever
like
color.
fucking white spots that you're shooting
It,
at.
it's cool as hell. Yeah.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I think that was cool.
And
Um,
I have to say, second
yeah.
encounter, even on normal, I'm getting pieced up by those stupid little stasis and strand fellas. The
So
attendant
funny,
and the weaver. I'm getting
funny enough,
destroyed by them
yeah,
the
funny
entire
enough,
time.
I didn't have any difficulty in that encounter with them. Where I had the encounter with them was in the final encounter. I kept getting yoinked away from, or also in encounter 3, getting yoinked away from my plate.
Oh yeah, that shit
Um,
sucks.
oh, that's very annoying when somebody calls that
That
they've
shit
sent
sucks.
and one of those little fuckers is hiding and then yoinks you out and you can't do anything about it. So the chain's broken. You have to start over and you're just like, what the hell, man? Um,
Yeah, that's why I hate the the stasis because they put a slow circle and it's always directly in your path to the bounce pad, and
yeah,
I'm just like I'm not gonna make this. I'm not gonna make this.
I would agree. I would agree. So second encounter, really cool. It's not Tanix. Third encounter is very simple. If you've understood the ping ponging thus far, very simple. Um, and collecting the symbols. Actually, a very quick encounter. I was very
It's
shocked at how quick encounter 3 goes.
it's basically first encounter, but in a
More
straight
streamlined.
line
Yeah.
instead of a circle.
Yeah, which I think I far preferred.
Yeah.
It's really the only like quote unquote weak encounter to me.
Yeah,
Um, uh,
yeah. It's
Finding
just like
the
a
beginning and end
fight
points
through
can be a
encounter.
little confusing the first time, but I don't think it's like horrifyingly bad.
I kind of compare that one to like the first encounter of Root of Nightmares, but it gives everybody stuff to do instead of just like one person. It's just like a push this thing forward kind of encounter.
Yeah.
But I do like that it's like three separate rooms and you have to jump up and between them.
Yeah. Um, all right. Let's talk about the two big ones though. The first three are like an appetizer course. You kind of fly through them. Encounter 4 is where most teams, even on normal, are going to hit a roadblock. Um, Verity. This is, I want to preface this by saying this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen in a video game. It is, for me, up there with the comparison I made in a Discord that I'm in is that I have it on par with the Clockwork Mansion level from Dishonored 2, where every lever you pull in every room changes the layout of the entire mansion.
Mhm.
Um, I have it on par with that. That's how special this is. Um, it is simply put one of the coolest things I've ever seen in a game. I don't know how they got this to work. I don't know how this worked. I don't know how it works still. And I honestly, this is like one of those game dev secrets I never want revealed because I think it's so unique how it copies your Guardian exactly,
Oh yeah.
exactly how you look. And it is such a cool encounter, whether you're outside or inside. I think if you get teleported inside and you're solo, I think that's where the encounter really shines. Um, Being outside, it's like, oh, okay, cool. There's three of you. Like one person needs to dissect, the others are just clearing everything.
Yeah, there's only really four jobs. Which I'll take it because there's a lot of other raids where there's only one or two jobs. And
Yeah.
it I I'll take a thing but the redeeming factor is it randomizes you have to do three rounds of it and it randomizes
Yeah,
and
so everyone
dying
has to
matters.
know. Yeah, everyone has to know what to do. I was talking to one of the guys that you and I both ran with, Oak, and he was saying how when he was teaching it to somebody, and they spent hours on the fourth encounter because the person absolutely refused to learn how to read. They would get in there and they just instantly kill themselves.
That's funny.
And I'm like, I would have pieced out of there. And I will say this: I do think it's a confusing
We're
encounter.
getting the boot,
Any
buddy.
anyone, yeah, anybody who is confused by that encounter, you are not alone. This is a safe space to talk about it. However, I do not think if you can get a good explanation, it is not that bad. I found when I was watching videos that Fallout Plays probably has the best description of it because he has diagrams and shows you exactly what to do on both parts of it, whether you're creating or dissecting. Um, and I found his video very helpful and explanatory. But also the guys that I ran it with just explained it really well, like off the cusp. Like it seems super complicated, and I cannot fathom trying to figure this out day one.
Oh yeah,
Kudos to
that
everyone who
must have
figured
been
this out
massive.
day one without any sort of help. Like, just what the fuck, man? Y'all are gods.
Oh yeah, yeah. This
This
was a crazy encounter,
this is
and like
absolutely nuts.
watching it with no audio and no buffs or anything, seeing them die was the most confusing thing in the
Yep.
world
It,
because
it threw me for a loop every time that I died, even though I knew what was happening. Just my brain doesn't register. My brain is wired to panic when it happens.
yeah, it's so bizarre and it's so cool. Um, and what's really interesting is this is the first time where they made fashion a raid encounter. Because
Yeah.
what you're wearing and what ghost you have definitely matter in this encounter.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I had a lot of fun though. I thought it was a very cool encounter. It's not one that I'm like wanting to repeat every time. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I would be fine with just grabbing like boss CPs or like running first three encounters, bailing and grabbing a boss CP.
I'll be real
Um,
though, once you have it down, it's easy. I
it
promise.
is, but I think it also depends on the group you're running and like
That
everybody's
too.
patience level.
Yeah.
Because first three encounters can either go really quick or it can take you like an hour and a half to get through them. And that was kind of the case with us. And I mean, part of that's because I was learning, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, we almost had fourth encounter on first try. So
Oh yeah.
we literally were the final ghost placement away from doing it, and somebody picked up and put down the wrong ghost instantly, and we all yelled at him to stop and didn't do it quick enough.
Yeah.
So we would have had it first try otherwise. And it took
Yeah.
us like an additional 45 minutes to get through the rotations after that. So
Yep.
it definitely can be a little frustrating. But I still think it's a really cool encounter. The jumping puzzle in these in between sections also, like the jumping areas get more and more precarious the further up you get.
I love it.
I can't imagine doing like this whole raid flawless. Like, what the fuck? Um, I'm never getting that memento. I'm telling you.
So it's not flawless. It's without wiping.
I
So
I don't care.
that's a
That
little
is
bit better.
almost it just like by like a
That's a
few bits
little bit
better.
better. Or just a master clear, and that's not
Dude,
that bad.
it's bad. Um, the witness fight. What the fuck? What the fuck was this, Joe?
I this is this definitely beats out the Rolk fight in just shock value.
I
um
okay.
I that's still
State your case. State your case
my
for me.
my number one. But I that is my favorite boss DPS um situation that I think we've ever
Interesting.
had,
Interesting. Okay.
because it fucking like the rest of it really isn't too too bad. It's just, yeah, like a few people are gonna get these symbols and destroy these hands and get the glyphs. It is like fairly easy not to like die getting two bosses,
Right.
but once you're in and damaging him, he is fucking, or they are fucking ruthless with their attacks. I know it's coming. I die almost every time, and if your team isn't like coordinated and like maybe somebody calling out to which spot to go to so that everybody lives, there's a good chance that like a few, like 3 or 4 of your squad are gonna die and do almost uh, no damage. I, I love shit like this.
I think it was very cool. I enjoyed it. Um, what keeps me from saying this is my favorite boss fight is pretty much exactly what you just described. I think the witnesses attacks are a little too unforgiving, even on normal. I feel like how they are it would be fine for master. I think for normal, for the average person going in to do this, they are really, really gonna struggle.
Oh yeah,
Um,
oh yeah.
it is, and I mean, like, the focus should be on staying alive, right? Instead of DPS. Like for those people, for non-experienced raiders or non-confident raiders, like, I'm not super confident in raids, until I've learned them. The focus for me was staying alive, and I was still dropping 3 mil damage. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't that bad.
Oh yeah.
Um, we were using a combination of we had a well up, I think, pretty much so we could just keep getting radiance. But we were all spamming healing grenades at our feet. Anytime that we jumped out to avoid attack, that way, in case like somebody was a little too late, they could still get some healing.
Yeah.
Um, so that was kind of nice. The mini bosses can still yoink you off the platform. We found out,
Oh yeah.
which is really aggravating because those things respawn too. My job was pretty much keeping them in check. Um, any yoinkers, essentially yoinkers or scorn chieftains were my job.
Any yoinkers in the
Commemoration and I
chat?
took care of those.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. I don't want to sound like I don't enjoy the DPS phase. I think getting there is fascinating, especially when you have to shoot the pattern out on his chest.
Oh yeah, that was like, oh my god, no, oh my god.
Yeah, when you're breaking the buttons, I think that's really cool. That's the next mechanic I want to learn I want to do that and learn how to dissect. And then I feel pretty confident doing just about anything in the raid. Um,
I could teach you, baby.
no raid though, Joe, is complete without loot. Let's talk about this wacky armor set for a second.
The armor
I gotta
set's
know
so weird. I love
how
it.
do you feel about the warlock set?
I got a mosquito mask and a resonance bond. I'm chilling. I think it like think about every weird piece of architecture that like the Witness likes. If if we're getting shit from the Witness in this raid, I like that we're claiming as our own. I want it to be weird and funky and a little uncomfortable looking, because that's what he is, or that's what they are.
Yeah.
Weird and uncomfortable.
I'm torn between I like pieces of the hunter set, and I think other pieces are just total dog shit.
Yeah, it's just like
Um,
weird.
the cloak is so strange. It's like I'm wearing a table on my back, but I
Yeah.
have like this leg sticking out of it, but it's really cool because there's resonance like coming off of it. So I want to wear it, but it looks like I'm wearing like a broken halo and no hood, so it looks really stupid. I don't know. I'm torn. The only piece I unequivocally love is the hunter helmet. I think the hunter helmet is awesome.
I don't know if I've seen the Hunter.
I can't. It's a very yin yang helmet. It reminds me of the speaker's mask in a lot of ways. So I'm really jazzed about it. I like it. Of course, it's the one piece of armor I didn't get yesterday on my first jaunt. So guess I'm gonna have to run it again. Oh no.
Oh no, more
Um,
rating.
these weapons though, like, is this the best suite of weapons we've ever gotten in a raid? Like, just gut reaction from week one.
Wouldn't know because I've only gotten the SMG so far.
Okay, so Joe's opinion doesn't matter. Um, I
I
just
like
I
the
lo-
SMG, but I haven't gotten
if it
anything
makes you
else.
feel any better, I did not get a single weapon drop until Witness. So
It
I
doesn't make me feel
left
any
with
better, but
3 pairs of arms, and that's all I kept getting was arms.
oh, the amount of bonds I got, like
It was very similar to our day one Ron run where I was just getting so tilted from not getting weapons, and then at the end it was like, oh, here we're gonna have mercy on you. Here's a red border Rufus, and then I just bought another one immediately.
Josh literally got the trace this time, y'all. It happened.
I got the trace rifle from Ron after a year plus of trying to get it. So, and I crafted it purely through Pantheon runs. That's how bad my luck is with some of these legendary drops. But I got the pulse rifle and I got the sword on my run. And the sword, I didn't get good rolls on them. I used it as infusion fodder, honestly, because I really needed to bump up my heavies.
Yeah.
The pulse, though, man, I got it with Firefly and is what is it? Chaos Impact? Is that the name of it?
I think so.
Whatever the Chaos perk is from this. God, it's gonna bother me. I gotta pull up Dim. Whatever the Chaos perk is that's brand new on these guns.
Is that like the better frenzy that you're
Kind of?
talking about?
Yeah.
Uh, okay, yeah.
Very similar. Of course,
And it's
Dim was open from last night, so I'm trying
an
to
improved
reload it.
frenzy.
So I got Chaos Reshaped. That's what it is. Weapon gains bonus damage while in combat for an extended time. Remaining in combat for even longer rewards a larger damage bonus and periodically heals the wielder. I just ran it's a heavy burst pulse. I ran this in the Dual Destiny mission about an hour and a half ago with our friend Nerd, and it's filthy. Just bam, bam, bam. Everything's
Destroying
just
shit,
dying and
yeah.
blowing up. Yeah, it's just shredding shit. Between that and Call, that's all I was using.
That
Even for like the bosses.
that's a solar one, right?
Yeah,
All right, yeah. I'll definitely
it's
be
a heavy
using that.
solar.
I love solar shit.
Yeah, heavy solar pulse, not purse
Mm-hmm.
pulse. I was really enjoying it. The sword didn't drop anything cool for me. This SMG though, it's a 900, right?
Yeah, I believe so. It's a fast one.
So that's
I
interesting to me that it's Strand, right?
It's Strand, yeah. I enjoy it. I finally bought a couple from the end chest last night, and I got a demolitionist Firefly that I'm
Okay,
excited to
so
use. But
900. So 900. I'm really glad I didn't just say this out loud and make a fool of myself. I was like, man, isn't that the same as Immortal? Immortal is a 720. So we now have a good 900 for every element.
damage type, yeah.
Yeah, which is good. Because I mean, 900's still shredding a lot of content. Um, I really am excited to get the SMG. The bow has been described to me as legendary Trinity Ghoul if you
I
get Volt
want the
Shot on
bow.
it.
So it actually can be better.
Interesting.
I am personally gonna go for the Dragonfly Volt Shot one because I I enjoy boom booms, but apparently Archer's tempo goes very well on this, and it kind of shines in the one spot where Energy Ghoul is slow at, and that's being slow. It'll shoot super fast, so that can be crazy with Archer's tempo.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So there's that. I'm excited to get the sniper. The sniper basically is Black Hammer 2.0.
I didn't even know that there was a sniper.
Yeah, the sniper has people were calling it Baby Whisper, and we were like, "You mean Black Hammer?" Because that was Black Hammer is Baby Whisper.
Yeah.
So it was Black Hammer, and then Black Spindle was the exotic version of it, and Whisper is that. So, I'm excited to get that. I've seen just some of the ridiculous numbers it can do, and people are like, why don't you just run Whisper instead? Because maybe I want to run another heavy, you dumb shit. Like, have
Oh, it's
you
just based.
seen what Microsm does? Microsm is really fucking fun. Maybe I want to run a sniper with it. Um, and then we have one other weapon, I think,
The
that I'm
glaive.
not the glaive. I don't know how I feel about this glaive, man.
It
I
looks
can't
badass.
I can't take how it looks seriously, and I think that's part of my problem. I'm just like
Nah,
this thing is not serious.
I think it looks cool as hell, and same as the sword.
I think the sword looks really cool. The adept versions of all of these look awesome.
Yeah.
They're all gold and where the white and silver were, it's gold. So I really enjoy that. It's cool. This is an awesome raid. It's a good loot pool, I feel. It's good challenge, even on normal.
Oh yeah.
This isn't something where you can just be like, oh, well, I'll be on div duty, or oh, let's pop a well. Like and I say that, but we did pop a well on not Tanix and beat the shit out of them with swords.
Oh yeah. There was a few fun strats for Walmart Tanix. We in our run through I actually in retrospect I wish I used Song of Flame instead of well, but I had a well and I was diving him and the rest of my team were shooting him with still hunt, and it was the ignitions because I believe that they were standing in a song on a flame.
Uh-huh.
Their ignitions were like perma stunning him, so he just like wasn't moving forward at all. He was slowly moving backwards, and we pumped him, like got his ass hard, just
Jesus.
permanently stunning him, and they were firing the golden gun sniper at him and just doing tons of damage.
Yeah, there's a lot of crazy fun strats you can do in this raid. Good challenge, like I said, good challenge level. It's not like Ron where we were immediately memeing on it.
Oh yeah.
Like I think even the people who have managed to do low mans so far are like, no, this is a challenging raid to learn.
Oh yeah.
Like there's a lot to remember and a lot to do. This doesn't feel like one that I'm gonna run, and this is no testament to the quality of the raid. Just I don't know how many times I'm gonna run this truthfully. Full complete runs, I would say it's probably gonna be less than 20, which is still a decent amount for me for a raid. Obviously, if I get the exotic and I get the weapons I want crafted out of it, then I'll be done a lot sooner.
The exotic is
Um,
so cool.
God,
I want it.
Euphony is wild, and if you craft every weapon, you can get it with an additional trait.
Which who fucking knows what that means?
Yeah, nobody knows because nobody's crafted all the weapons yet, to my
Who
knowledge.
knows
So
what that means? Like,
I think it's just a chance for it to drop with that too.
it would be really
So
cool if that's their way of doing like raid weapon masterworks in the
yeah, I
future.
have a
Or like
feeling that
new
that
raid.
basically is going to how they do catalysts going forward.
Or yeah, that's that
Um,
word.
I like that because it's like it's a reward for those people who just grind the raid out. Like
Oh yeah.
if you're doing that much, you do deserve to have the best. I'm sorry, you deserve to have the best version of the weapon. If you're doing like 50 runs of this, you know. Um, I really enjoy the raid though. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's great. Good loot pool as of right now for the current meta at the time of this recording. Good loot pool, good solid choices.
Oh yeah.
But Joe, as is tradition on this show, us talking about a raid is only part of it. We got to rank the raid now, and we've each prepared a list of all the raids, and this is the definitive Tower Casuals Light and Darkness Saga raid rankings. Joe and I have each brought a list of the raids. Joe, will you remind me very quickly how many raids there are in this game?
So I excluded the Destiny 1 variants
Yeah.
that we have versions of in
The only
Destiny
Destiny
2,
1 version we are taking into account is
Wrath
Wrath
of
of
the
the
Machine,
Machine.
because it don't exist in D2 yet.
Yes.
Sad face, please Bungie, I haven't done that
God, dude, it's
this
got to be
raid
in
ever.
September. It's got to be in
Um,
September.
but I counted 14.
14 raids total. Do, 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 do.
And for starters, I'm gonna walk back what I said earlier. Rolk is still my favorite encounter that I've ever made.
That's fine. We're gonna start from your least favorite.
All
So
right,
Joe, we actually have 15 if you include
15.
yes, we have 15 if you include Wrath of the Machine. There's 14
What am I
raids in
missing
Destiny
then?
2. There's 14 raids in Destiny 2, and there is a 15th with Wrath. So we have the Leviathan, we have the Eater of Worlds, we have Spire of Stars, Last Wish, Scourge,
Yeah,
Crown of Sorrow, Garden, Deepstone Crypt, Vogue, Vow, King's Fall, Root of Nightmares, Crota's End, Salvation's Edge, Wrath of the Machine.
I only have 14. How do I have
That is
14 and I have everyone that you
that is
just
15
said?
total, buddy. That is
Oh, I was
15.
just miscounting my list the whole time. It is
God, you
15.
fucking idiot.
I was like, how do I have everyone that you just listed on here? All
I
right.
feel like this is happening more and more, and this is part of why we need new rankings now.
Yeah.
All right. So, what's your last place raid?
The last place award goes to Eater of Worlds. That
Eater
was
of
a
Worlds.
snooze fest to me.
That's what I've got also.
Yeah.
I've got Eater in last place. Um it's not bad, but when they say raid layer, this is what I imagine a dungeon being
Yeah.
nowadays.
It's a 6-man dungeon, and
It's a six-man
like
dungeon.
that's the shitty part about the raid layers is they don't suffer like they more suffer from what they are than what than what you do in them,
Yeah, I would agree with
because
that.
they're just raids with like significantly less in it. Um and it's like I it is cool that like they tried to do a thing where they like put a bit less into them but tried to pump out more. But I want the raids to always be like like the most epic thing going on in
Yes.
Destiny at that time.
It
And
didn't help that it came out during a really lackluster release too.
yeah, that
And
that was what
people were already jaded, and then you get this. This was if you don't remember, Eater of Worlds was completed by an LFG team.
yeah, it was an LFG. I've watched that
So,
stream and
oh, it's great.
they
It's a
had no
classic.
idea.
Instant classic.
They had no idea that they got first
It's an
until like,
instant
oh,
classic. If you've never watched it, I urge you to find the video.
it was so funny.
All right. Uh Next one. Number 13 or number 14. Number 14. That was number 15, number 14. I've got Spire Stars here.
Samesies.
I love Spire. I want to be very upfront. I really love Spire, but you can't I just can't put it higher. I think that it's very fun, especially when you're the person who gets launched into space.
Yeah.
I think it's a very cool mechanic. But passing the ball 6 times rapidly to throw it at a shield and then just beat the shit out of him with
And
swords,
it's not even throw it
like,
at the shield, throw it to Callus to slam dunk on him.
it's so
Like
weird. Yeah, it's
it
so
was
weird.
so
Like,
funny
you
and
just
weird.
Wardcliff coiled him from the corner to death, and it was an easy
Yeah,
one phase.
I thoroughly like I love it. I miss it. I want it back, but like
Yeah,
it's not a raid. Yeah. You know what I
that's how
mean?
I feel. I will say everything after this, regardless of where it's ranked, I think has its own merits.
Oh yeah, yeah,
It is an actual full activity. This was actually a very difficult list for me to put together, given the D2 variants of 3 raids.
It felt a lot more difficult this time
It felt
than
very
last time.
difficult this time, I'm not going to
Yeah.
lie. So at number 13, the first of the real raids that we're knocking off, I want to know what you have first before I reveal mine.
Okay, so I have Garden here.
That is not what I would have predicted. I do not have Garden in this spot.
I mostly have Garden here. I absolutely love the boss fight for Garden in all of its jankiness.
Yeah.
I love it. I love doing it. It's a great time. It normally either you get it done like one try or you're there for like 2 hours. I love it. The rest of that raid is kind of a snooze fest for 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 me. I don't really
Yeah.
love the rest of that raid.
So I have Garden pretty low. The one that I actually have here, and hear me out here, because I truly love this raid. I've got Scourge here.
That's crazy. in,
So I know
in terms of where I have Scourge,
yeah.
that one's crazy.
So this is what I mean when I say I really wrestled with this. Because I'm gonna be upfront with you, either Scourge or Ron was going here. Which is a drastic turnaround from last year's raid rankings. I've had a year and a half to sit on them and think about what I actually like and don't like about these raids. Um, I have Scourge this low because let me tell you something. Trying to get people who don't fucking follow directions to do Scourge is one of the most infuriating experiences of my life. Trying to get
I
people
find
to
it funny personally
trying to
because
get people to understand
I'm a map reader.
trying to get people. Oh, I was the map reader, and it got to the point where I would have to read map, and then I would have to run and get berserkers because people didn't know how to do that either. Then you have the Sparrow race, which can either take you 5 minutes or 5 hours, and then you're at the end. You're at Insurrection Prime, which don't get me wrong, I love being the map reader on Insurrection Prime. Also, it's capped for all you assholes out there.
It is cap.
Um, it's cap.
It is cap. Like
I
YACP when you could have a word.
This is one of
You
the
know
most
what I mean?
infuriating encounters to do because it's the only encounter Darcy has ever been good for, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Trying to get people to run Darcy here. And they're like, I don't want to run Darcy. I don't fucking care what you want to
Like
run. You're
just
going to fucking
I
run it.
promise you it's gonna pop off. Just run it,
Yes.
please.
Yes. This was the beginning of the joke of, oh, when Josh gets mad during raids, he just stops talking. This is the raid where that originated from. I have it this low, not because I don't like it, but because I remember all the frustrations I had in trying to teach this and trying to get people to learn how to do the boss fight. That's why I have it this low. I have personal biases that go into this, but I should say I really love Scourge. Re-ranking these raids has made it really hard for me to put it up any higher.
Yeah.
What's your next one?
I kind of ranked mine off of like memories.
No, and that's totally
For the
fine. That's totally fine. I'm
most part.
ranking mine off partially memories, but I'm really trying to stick with gameplay for my ones for what it's worth.
Well, and my thing, like
If I was going
memories
by
come
memories,
from
Garden would be dead
good
ass last.
gameplay.
Let me tell you something.
Now Garden is a good raid. I'll stand on that one.
Hit me with your next.
The first couple.
Hit me with your next
but
one, Joe.
The next one, I got Crown here.
Okay.
Because
Because
while
it sucks.
that final boss fight is fun as hell, and it's the best part of that whole raid, once again, the rest of it isn't really all that fun.
Yeah.
The third encounter, like the mini Galran, is getting there, but it also like I like the whole like two different buffed people have to punch it to break the shield and do like
we talked
I
about the
enjoy that.
cornucopia. We talked about the cornucopia of frustrating LFG encounters, and third encounter of this raid absolutely is up there.
And then but like nothing beats like baiting that one knight under the axe and then him just coming down like that
I do really
boss
enjoy
fight
that.
and
I
like
do
when
really enjoy that.
his hands start to come up to the crown, and you have to shoot them back. Like that, just everything about that amazing. But the rest of the raid kind of nothing to write home about, especially first encounter. If we're talking about a snoozer of an opening encounter, encounter 1 of Crown is nothing.
Encounter 2 is nothing.
I don't even remember what encounter 2 is.
Encounter 2 is where it's the jumping puzzle with the crystals.
Oh yeah.
And they actually gave us loot out of it.
Nope. I'm good off that.
So I'm going to put Crown at 12 as well. I was going to put Ron here, and then I remembered Crown existed. For all the reasons you said. Number 11. What you got here, Joe?
So, I've also, over the past year, thanks to, I'll get there next. I have Leviathan here.
Leviathan.
Yep.
Okay.
We're starting to get into the territory of like they're all like
they're all enjoyable. Yeah.
I love them all, so it's hard. Leviathan, it is one of the more fun raids that they've ever made. Like
it's
fun,
unique.
like
it's very unique.
You don't have to, and it's like you're literally like playing a bunch of mini games, and it's like
I like the idea that you could like kind of
it.
tackle the encounters how you wanted to,
and that too, and the whole aspect of like the underbelly and like going around and like I that was some of the most fun about LFG is like when you would get somebody who like knew all the pathways and it's like, oh fuck yeah, follow him. I always had a great time in running Leviathan.
Yeah, I've got Garden at number 11 for everything that we talked about before. Yeah. Garden, Crown, and Scourge are all like, I mean, I could probably flip this in Scourge if I wanted to, truthfully. They're all kind of in that same boat for me. I think Garden's mechanics are really intriguing, but they just are so fucking janky.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating. Everybody wants a div run every time, and I understand.
Everybody always wants a div run.
That's the only reason anybody wants to run it. Like, the loot was never good. And that was the whole armor reshading fiasco. It was like the Trials or Curse of Osiris armor, but vexified essentially.
Yeah.
And I still maintain I think the armor set looks cool.
I don't love that armor set. It's
I like it. I like the shattered tacky armor. So
yeah, I like the idea of it's cool, but like I'm speaking specifically from Warlock that none of the like the helmet. Yeah. I've never used the helmet.
That's fair. I've never seen anyone use the fashion for it. I only did even a little bit. So
I normally like to mix in the legs and the gauntlets every once in a while, but the helmet I've never touched, and then the chest piece I don't think I've ever touched either.
So number 10. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna rip the Band-Aid off here for all of us. It's Ron.
Yep, I got Ron here. Here too.
It really pains me to do because I genuinely like Ron. I think Ron is a very fun raid. It is maybe the most beginner-friendly raid in the game, but that's precisely why it needs to be so low, I think.
Yeah.
It is not mechanically challenging at all. You literally can assign somebody to be on ad clear the entire raid, and they don't ever have to touch a mechanic. And I don't like raids.
2 people.
Yeah, really.
2 people can guaranteed ad clear the entire raid and never have to do anything at all.
And the mechanics aren't even that bad. So
the mechanics are fairly easy. It's very easy because yes. What I was gonna say earlier is thanks to Oaken Dealer, I've 3-manned a lot of the raids on this list, and that like turns the fun factor in some of like because like once you have like a certain group that's just banging it out, some of these raids get really easy, and like they start to like their charm and like fun factors start to get a little like but in a 3-man setting, um, there there's a lot more to fuck up, and that like that on Root of Nightmares specifically cranked up the fun factor a
Yes.
bunch, but
Yeah.
not quite enough to be above any of the other raids on this list.
Nope. And that's the thing. It's fun, but fun only gets you so far. Okay. This is where it started getting a little challenging for me.
Yeah.
Like after Ron. Um, at number 9, I'm gonna have another controversial one for you here. I'm putting Vault of Glass.
I don't blame you.
I'm putting Vogue down here. And here's my only reason. We have evolved so much in terms of what raids look like from Vogue, even the
Yeah.
D2 version.
Yeah, it's a fairly
I
cut
think
and
that
dry
the
one.
only for me there's 2 unique encounters, and it's um oh my god, I just blanked on the name. It's the oracles, and it's the final encounter where you're shooting the oracles again,
Yeah.
and you're reading from inside the portals. I think it's really cool, but I think we've moved beyond the stand in a well and shoot things phase.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I just feel like, it's the first raid. For a while here in these rankings, I was ranking it high because it was the OG, and then I'm like, why am I showing deference to that? Like, I don't care if it's the OG. Like, actually, shit. I've jumped ahead a little bit. I just realized I never ranked Leviathan, and Leviathan needs to be below Ron. Um, so yeah, Leviathan's my number 10. Technically, Vogue is my number 8, actually. So I need your number 9, Joe.
I think that's this one. Yeah. So I have Wrath here, but that's solely because
Gotcha.
I haven't done it.
Okay.
That raid looks cool as hell, and I'm so excited to do it
Oh,
when
dude,
they
you listen.
when
You
they
gotta love a good
move it
Death
over.
Zamboni.
That raid, well, like I had PS3 for the longest time, so I basically fully missed out on Rise of Iron. And I actually really enjoyed that expansion story, and the raid was super cool. I'm sad I never got to do it.
Yeah.
But I'm excited that hopefully it might maybe come back someday. Someday it's the only one left, so I think it wouldn't be too hard to to do that up. But yeah, and it even seemed like the weapons were really good too.
Yeah, I liked the weapons from it. I did it very late in D1's lifespan, though. Like, I'm talking the week Destiny 2 came out. In fact, the night before Destiny 2 went up, I was playing Wrath.
Yeah.
So, um, okay, so my number 8 is Vogue. What's your number 8?
Also Vog.
Okay. Okay.
So
So
yeah.
we're good. We're good. We're back on track. We're back on track. Um, all right, number 7. I've got Deep Stone Crypt here.
I also have Deepstone.
DSC again, great intro raid. I really love the aesthetic of Deepstone. I think it has the coolest looking raid weapons in the series. I don't care what anybody says.
I love Deepstone. So like that that was what really got me into raiding.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
I have I just pulled up raid report to check. I have 88 clears on this raid. I
I
This is
love
the
this
first
raid.
one I ever went for the seal for. I love this raid. It's not like the hardest thing ever. I just like Tanix just needs a bit more health, and then I think it's like solid. Atrax also probably just needs a bit more health. We just have too many too many tools in our tool chest at this point to do too much shit. to these bosses anymore, but they were very cool bosses. Like Atrax is still
Yeah, I think
probably the most unique raid boss that they've made.
Atrax is
If
very
I'm thinking
cool,
back,
and I think it kind of set the stage for what came in Vow and Salvation's Edge.
yeah,
Um, by it being a very unique encounter. Very, like, yes, the health bar is there, but the mechanic is more important.
yeah,
I found that very cool because it's a mechanic and a DPS check all in one.
oh yeah.
And I really enjoy that. It's not something like War Priest where it's just like, oh, do a shitload of damage after
It's
a very
like,
simple
hey,
mechanic.
just fight this fucker now.
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
That was like kind of the shift in attitude for me when it came to designing D2's raids, I think. Like, yeah, you can make something easy but still fun, and like it really only becomes easy if you have the specific weapon, you know?
oh yeah.
Other than that, like getting past Atrax without like Lament or like a decent sword is actually still kind of a challenge. Like, if you're not one or two phasing Atrax, it it can get rough. Things can start stacking
Shit
up on you.
gets crazy. Yeah.
I will say
I'm a
that,
fan.
yeah, I will say I really like it. I think that Eyes of Tomorrow is such a cool exotic. The bane of Gambit players everywhere, but it's still fun. Uh, number six. Number six. God, I'm trying to think of which ones I have left. I'm making myself note real quick.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I I had like 10 free minutes at work earlier, and I was like, I'm
Yeah, I'm
just gonna do this now, so I have like thought
I'm
behind it, and
jogging
I'm
my
not
memory
just
because I feel
yeah.
like I'm forgetting, like I'm legit forgetting like two raids and it's bothering me. Okay, now I'm only forgetting what the fuck? Which one am I forgetting? Like,
There's
oh,
6
I got it.
left.
I got it. I got which one I'm forgetting. Okay. I can't believe I forgot Vow of the Disciple. Um, so I'm gonna put at number six. I'm gonna put New Crota's End.
Same here.
I love Crota. I actually think New Crota's End is a very, 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 very good raid. When we ranked these back in September, I had it top three, I think.
Oh yeah.
Um, Running it as many times as I have, I've soured on it quite a bit. But I think that happens when you run something like once or twice versus 20 plus.
Oh yeah.
Um,
That's how dungeons are. Well,
that's why I like
like
ranking
it's
these right away. But I've got Crota at six. It's still a very fun encounter. It's still a very fun raid. I still really enjoy it. Nicely updated for D2. Great loot pool. Fantastic loot
oh
pool.
yeah. Those weapons
Um,
are awesome, and
yeah, it's been a lot of fun. The armor is pretty sleek. I don't know. It's just like it's a quick jaunt. Like there's a reason why we used to joke about it coming back as a dungeon.
yeah. Oh yeah. Well, like I
It is
used
it
to
is the
solo this
perfect
constantly.
this this and Deepstone and Ron are like the ideal raids if you are going to do a raid night with friends and you only have like 2 hours. You can get all three of these done with time for a snack break
Oh yeah, yeah.
and no
I
problems.
I've always been a huge fan of of Duo and Crota. I the DPS phase on Crota nowadays, they couldn't have made that more like perfect with how you damage Crota now. It pays homage to the old ways with like a brand new spin on it, and it's a lot more updated, and I think it's great. It's just it doesn't quite beat out the rest of them.
Yeah, I would agree. Um, all right, top five time. I can't believe you haven't ranked Scourge yet. This is insane. Man, my mind is being blown. I think I ranked Scourge too low, but Jesus, Joe.
I have
Um,
Scourge at 5. I'll just say
okay,
that
thank God.
right here.
I've got Wrath at five.
I'm gonna be real. If they for some reason gave me the choice between Scourge and Wrath, or not Scourge and Wrath, Scourge and any other raid but Wrath coming back, I'm going Scourge.
I'd be fine with that.
Scourge was Scourge was my favorite raid pre vow. No, like I love Scourge so much. Let's just say that instead. I like Scourge top to bottom. I think is an amazing raid. The
It's good.
main mechanic is teamwork, and
Yeah.
teamwork where you like there's someone reading a map and you're navigating them. I think that was an awesome like mechanic. I love it. Yes, it gets frustrating, but I think it's great.
I've got Wrath at number 5 for everything we talked about earlier. I also have not cleared Wrath, but I have gotten to Final Stand on the boss multiple times, so I count that as having finished it essentially.
Oh yeah.
I have sour memories of this raid from who I did it with. My partner was still playing Destiny at the time, and her sister decided she wanted to raid with us, and we had to literally. She was the designated revive person.
Oh.
And she was very bad at her job. So, yeah, it was a bad time. None of us enjoyed it. I think Wrath is a very well done raid, but I need to see it updated for D2 before I can put it any higher. And to be clear, like because these top 4 are, it's very hard. Like I would say you could probably get past my number 4. Getting into that top 3 is like we are talking best thing ever made
best
in the game.
Of the best here, yeah.
Yeah.
I back to Wrath of the Machine for one more
yeah, you're
second
fine.
though. Mad respect for that raid exotic. Like that raid exotic puzzle shits on a div run any day of the week. I would love
It's
if
wild.
something like that ever. Like I hope if they do bring Wrath back that they do something like that. I hope it's different so it's not as easily figured out. But I want like some super secret puzzle. Like that was crazy. I loved that whole puzzle, even with never doing it. But
yeah. All right. I've got King's Fall at number 4.
Same here.
We have to, and I had a feeling we had the same top 3. King's Fall. This is the first time I've ever taken it out of my top 3. I think I just heard Corey cry from afar. King's Fall is a very special raid to me. I've often described it as my favorite raid in the game for multiple reasons. I think it is still maybe top to bottom. In a lot of ways, top to bottom, it might still be my favorite raid. But holy shit, this raid is so long.
Yeah,
this is such a goddamn long raid.
I one of my my buddies that I work with, I finally got him to raid with us like a few months ago, and I tricked him into doing King's Fall as his first raid, and it got him into raiding for a brief period of time, and I'm like, you're locked in for 2.5 hours.
King's Fall is like a drug.
With us, buddy.
It's a great raid, but again, it can take you an hour or it can take you like 5.
It's a rough first raid to introduce somebody to raiding with.
It's very rough.
But if they stick it out, then it's like I just beat that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it is. The entire opening section with the traversal is still really rough. All the dunking and then the traversal once you go through the portal. I mean, look at everything you have to do just to get to totems. Like War Priest is where a lot of people want to just like off themselves. Golgi, we all know Golgi. I actually don't. From Golgi on, I don't think it's too bad. It's getting to Golgi that's the problem. And there's like 6 encounters in this raid. It's wild. It's such a long fucking raid. I really enjoy it, but man, I'd be lying if I said that I'm not enjoying some of these ones that you can pound out in like 45 minutes these days.
Yeah, I have like a little bit of a different view. Like I have quite a bit of free time. So I have always loved do like I- I'll always like I came up on LFG raids. I'm used to raids taking like 2 hours, 3 hours. So like I I don't get as easily frustrated when the things take a long time. So like I basically love it the entire time.
Yeah. It's good, but it's not top three good.
Yeah, that's not quite there.
So at number three, I'm going Last Wish.
Three, I have Salvation's Edge.
So
Salvation's Edge.
let me make my case for Last Wish at three. I think that Salvation's Edge does everything Last Wish does, but just a hair bit better. Um, I like Last Wish. Last Wish is also the raid I have probably done front to back the least. Um, I think that Callie, even back in the day, was a joke of an encounter. Um, I don't think that Morgeth is particularly an interesting encounter. Shirochi is fascinating to me. I think Shirochi is a fascinating encounter. I really like it. Of course, now having done Legit Riven is awesome.
Oh yeah,
Like, it
yeah.
is
It is
Legit Riven
amazing.
is maybe still the best boss fight in the game, by my opinion, because how you do DPS is so unconventional for Destiny,
Oh
even with
yeah, I'm
everything
just
that we have
shooting her
now.
pimples.
Yeah, you're shooting all our pimples, but I mean, like everything that leads up to that, if you're doing legit, like cool. I think it's a very cool encounter. And then the shock of okay, you beat Riven. There's still an encounter to go though.
Yeah,
It's the
that
relay race with the
Queen's
heart
Walk is
is
crazy.
the Queen's Walk is fascinating. That's the one thing that has me debating if I should put this higher. But I stand by what I said. The weapons in Last Wish were never good until recently, and I think that partially affects my rating. I think that loot needs to be good when it comes out, and it never was. Um, it shouldn't take 5 years of me waiting and a loot refresh for it to be good,
Hmm.
or for people to want to go in and farm it.
I
That is,
think
but if that's the knock, then I feel like you're in pretty good company because this is elite company that we're in. Like every raid, even like the lower encounters, if you do them legit and you're not just burning the bosses, they're fascinating.
oh
Like
yeah,
I actually really
they're
like the
all
idea of
different in their own way.
I like having to hide in the Callie encounter. I think that's really funny.
Yeah.
Seeing people get locked out was very fun.
Oh yeah.
Um, I enjoy that, the symbol reading, things like that. This was the OG symbol reading, and they were a lot bigger and not the tiny shits you have on screen now.
hmm
Um, but I can't put it above my other two.
I think the reason I have Salvation's Edge here and not at 2, I think if third encounter was also a boss fight, I think it goes above Last Wish here. I can't I I can't put Last Wish above Salvation's Edge. Um, I I like a lot of bosses. I could have done with one more boss in Salvation's Edge, and I think a really cool way that they could have incorporated a boss into third encounter is if like you complete all the circuits and you get 20 seconds of damage. And like I would have done a health gated boss that you do a third of its damage if you can't do a third in that amount of time that then it like wipes it it would have been like the caretaker of that raid, and I think that would have put that above Last Wish for me.
Oh man, you're really gonna hate me here. So at number two, you have Last Wish. I'm assuming.
Yep, 2 I have Last Wish.
I've got Vow of the Disciple at two.
You're putting Salvation's Edge at
I'm putting
number one.
I'm putting my money where my mouth is. After one clear, I'm putting
After one
Salvations.
clear.
I'm putting Salvations at number one. And here, let me make my case for Vow at two real fast, and then I'll go in on Salvation's edge.
Go for it.
Vow, I think, is incredible. My knock against Vow, as much as I like the encounter design itself, exhibition is so frustrating. It is one again. It's another one of those. It can take 5 minutes or it can take an hour, and trying to do that raid with people who can't fucking jump or follow the simplest directions is just the most infuriating thing. And I'm not talking like people who are learning for the first time. I'm talking people who have a dozen clears on this raid or who have come in and done the jumping puzzle a trillion times to get to the chess and still are like, I don't know where to go, or oh no, I went the wrong way, or oh, how'd you guys get up there? Like, why don't you pay attention instead of ripping your bong loudly or, cracking up and cutting jokes the whole time? Like, yes, raid night is fun, I get it, but holy shit, some of us don't want to be here for 3 hours. And I've never had a run of Vow that has gone quickly in my life. I love Vow, but if somebody says they want to do Vow, I'm preparing to set aside like 3 hours of my life because it has
Yeah.
never ever gone fast in my entire life when I've wanted to go do Vow. That being said, Rolk is my favorite boss fight in the entire game. Pantheon Rolk
Pantheon Rolk
is
was disgusting. I loved
even
it.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah, did it legit week 3, did not do it legit week 4. Fuck that.
Yeah, we gave our
We've
best
final
efforts.
stayed him many times, but
We gave our best efforts
yeah,
on
I tried
getting his
before we
ass, but
cheesed it. We tried for a couple of hours before we cheesed
yeah,
it.
we definitely tried, and then
Yeah, so
that
no,
that
I
in my
enjoy
opinion that
Val.
was harder than Nezarec
I'm
for
also
champion.
much harder than Nez, much
Yeah.
harder than Nezzy. I'm also going to tell you the opening of Vow absolutely prevented it from being number one for me.
That's the only low point, but I'm willing to
It's so fucking
look
bad.
past it. I'm
It's
willing to
so
look past it for the
man,
rest of
it's
that raid.
so bad. It was fun the first time I did it, and then we all realized we had to do it every single time, and I think that kills some of the enjoyment value of it. And that's where like, oh, we just started grabbing we started grabbing roll checkpoints. Like, whatever.
I think I think that would have been a lot cooler of an opening encounter if it didn't stop and maybe went a tiny
I
bit
agree.
slower. And if you get off of it, you start getting pervading darkness stacks.
Yep, because people don't want to
Um,
hang out near it, and then they're wondering why'd I die when
and
you're all the way out there.
I think like if it didn't stop at all and it they just like assaulted you with ads the whole time, I think that would have made or and like maybe loot at the end. You know what I mean? I think if they turned it into an actual little encounter and didn't just make it like a very tedious thing, I think it would have been a lot cooler. Of like I already it's already my number one. I that raid is by like I do really like Salvation's Edge. Last Wish is great, but Vow is like that Rolk fight is amazing, and I've done that one also. So trio, that one was like trioing. That was the best rating experience I've had in this game.
So I'm gonna say that I have Salvation's Edge at number one. Part of it is the recency bias.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's really hard not to want to rank something extremely high after doing it for the first time.
Oh yeah.
Especially when it's a pinnacle activity like this. Um, but when I take into account the experience I had doing it, that I had learning it, that I had watching the raid race, and that I've had with the loot and things like that, I really, really love this raid. I think that the mechanics are simple enough to understand, but everything going on, you have to manage everything going on around you in this very simple mechanic. And then you get to Verity, and Verity it's the pinnacle encounter that they've ever done in this game. I don't think there's a single better combat encounter in this entire game than
Yeah,
Verity.
It is definitely lives up to its nickname of being Vault
Yeah,
2.0.
it is,
It
and
and
it's a real encounter too.
I believe this is this completes the vow prophecy wall in a lot of
Yes.
ways.
Yep. The
Um,
witness kills the guardian.
because the witness kills the guardian in this encounter. When your ghost has to get dunked onto your statue, it's because the
Yep.
witness murders your ass. Uh, and that was such a cool touch to have that come like full circle, because we didn't know what like there was obviously like a very like only a few that it could have been, but we found out that it was Guardian, because the witness basically kills everybody in that fight at one
Yeah.
on point or another.
It's
And
Salvation's Edge is, and I mean also like I think it's, so many of the raids that we've talked about, and like part of why we have them ranked high at times is because we remember that epic boss fight.
oh yeah,
And man, the Witness is such a cool fight. I love that it's the inverse of how we kill Oryx, right? In Oryx, we beat him in the campaign first and then you kill him in the raid. Here, the raid takes place first and then you kill him in Excision for real.
yeah,
And the fact that, you go through all this and like Excision, canonically, Excision takes place as basically the Queen's Walk of
yeah.
this raid.
Mm-hmm.
To the
Yeah,
point where you even get a red border from it if you've completed the raid that week and have a key. Which I love that little touch, by the way.
that's
There's
great.
just so
Yeah,
many ways to get loot in this stupid game.
gets you
Um,
back in there every
yeah,
week.
it makes you want to run it every week, or at least get a boss CP every week for it, right? Um, I don't know. I think that I could not have imagined a better raid to cap off 10 years of Light and Dark
Oh yeah,
with.
and
And
I'm a fan of the final shape being the wipe timer. I kind of wish they were a little more reserved with that and didn't just slap that on every encounter. I think that would have been best as just the witness fight.
yeah, I think it would have been best on the Witness fight. I agree with you there. I actually like the
I
idea of
understand though.
I do like the idea of it being on all of them though, because it makes it really like adds that sense of urgency.
Yeah,
Like it, because canonically the Guardian doesn't fail encounters, right?
yeah,
Um, if you go through and you do every encounter first try and stuff from the time they start climbing the tower until they start the final assault on the Witness is like 25 minutes,
yeah,
like maybe. They blew through those Deathfire team, penetrated the defenses, and you know kicked the crap out of him up on top of the tower.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So I do think it's really cool. I like that the platform you do the damage on in Excision is literally the same platform from the raid.
Oh yeah. The DPS is basically the same thing as
It's the
the
same thing, yeah. It's like
raid. Yeah.
baby DPS, but I like that that's how they do it. So that way you don't have people feeling like they got left out
Oh yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they couldn't do the raid, because this is, make no mistake, to me this is the most challenging raid. And I think a lot of that
I would
comes
agree
from
with that.
Verity. A lot of
I
that
would
comes
agree
from
with that.
Verity. I'm going to be totally honest. I think Verity and I think encounters 4 and 5 really jack the difficulty up, especially for those who like aren't used to doing mechanics. Um, 4 in particular is one where everybody has to participate, and I really like that.
Oh yeah.
I don't like
Well, and then
encounters where people can just chill.
encounter like the witness fight is very interesting because like the mechanics to get to DPS are like fairly easy, and like
Yeah, there's like
really
no room for
one
error zone.
person could do. No, there's a little bit of room. It's not as tight as it, it, it seems, but the DPS phase, like there is like it can go. It can make it a shit show really, really quickly. Because those witness attacks are ruthless. Like, if you are even kind of near a beam, you're dead.
Yeah,
And I like it. It is very, and it's he doesn't do the same attack patterns every time.
No.
It's randomized, so there's no really getting used to it. It's always something different, and I really do love like they gave us like the what's kind of interesting is they basically gave us like a well's worth of land to stand on, but they're constantly taking half of it or sometimes the entire thing and making you adjust. And I think that was interesting that they gave us our well DPS, but with a much more lethal backhand this time.
Yeah. So there you have it, guys. That's our raid rankings. I am falling victim to recency bias and putting Salvations at number 1. Vow continues to live in my top 3 after all these years. Same with Last Wish. Suppose this Last Wish has ever come to being bumped out. I'm sure at some point Last Wish will be back up to like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
I'm gonna flip flop on this for forever, but the top 3, I think, like to some degree, can be completely interchangeable.
Yeah.
I can't say that once you get to Oryx. I think Oryx is still like these 3 are S tier. I think Oryx is like A tier, and then everything else is like A minus or lower, in my opinion.
I will say, I think and I know what this is gonna sound like. I think I preferred the mechanical DPS that we did to Oryx. I think that like yeah, it made it longer and there was no way to like optimize, but I think that made it a lot more like cool and epic. Personally, I get it though. Like they really couldn't do that in today's day and age. But I going back, I think I prefer the mechanical DPS.
Yeah. God, rating in D1 was so interesting. Like we brought
It's
the
so
change
different.
to the Crota fight itself
Yeah.
and how wacky that is. You know, that used to be, oh, one galley and then a sword bearer, and that was basically it.
You
Everyone else
used
just
to just kill his ass in
everyone else
one sword.
just got to like chill. Like and now it's like, oh, you can't do that. Like now you need like 2 or 3 swords to break him, and everybody has to beat the shit out of him afterwards. And it's cool. Like I still really like it. I want to state for the record that if we were putting Skolas from Prison of Elders on here, it would be at number 16. He would be in dead ass last place.
His bitch
Um,
ass.
it's God, just such a fucking awful boss encounter.
Bitchville
Um,
populate say.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
Me and Skolas there.
oh my
Chilling.
God, it's unbelievable. Drinking the death lemonade. Um, Joe, do you have any final thoughts on Salvation's Edge before we get out of here tonight?
um, I can't wait to do it again. And
Yeah.
another cool thing about it, I really like how they did the raid mods for this raid. There's like a puzzle that you have to do, kind of like a red border chest style thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's also that, but then there's like a raid mod chest thing at the end, that you have to do like throughout it, which I think is interesting and cool. But yeah, I rating on my report of my like yearly breakdown or my whole accounts breakdown on like what I spend doing. Rating and dungeoning was 48%. So I love raids and I love this one. I'm excited
Yeah.
to
It's
do it again.
I mean, as we just said, we just listed out 3 or 4 of the most pinnacle activities in Destiny that you can go do. If you're looking to get into raiding, you have plenty of other options further down on the list that are still in the game. Ron, Deepstone, even Crota are all great options to get into raiding. Vogue is still a really good first raid. And then, in fact, Vogue, I would even hesitate to say that Vogue is a beginner one because I think it's actually more mechanically complex than other ones. But there's some great entry level raids. There's, the more pinnacle. I think the more pinnacle and prestigious that they are, they're not necessarily hard to learn. You just have to be willing to do it and not expect to get it on the first try.
Oh yeah.
You also need good teachers. Like that's the most important thing to learning raids. You need good teachers. And thankfully, I've had some very patient people who have helped me learn how to do some of the harder content in the game, including Pantheon. Yeah, I can't wait to see what we get next. I'm very curious to see if we get a dungeon or or what this season. We know we're getting 2 dungeons and presumably a reprised raid over the next year. So I'm curious if that means we're getting 2 dungeons over the next 2 episodes and a raid, or if we're getting, dungeon, raid, dungeon. It's going to be very interesting. But
I think it would make probably the most sense if they did dungeon raid dungeon, and I think that with the second episode being like a fallen themed, I think it would make sense if they brought Wrath of the Machine back.
Yeah, so hear me out. If you bring Wrath back, last thing that we're going to get out here, if you bring Wrath back for Revenant, which is the Fallen and Scorn theme season, you can bring Wrath back at the beginning because it has no story purpose, right?
Yeah.
And that allows you greater freedom for when you drop the dungeon for it to be story themed, right? For the final death of Fickrel or something.
I think
right?
that would be super
Assault
cool. Yeah.
Fickrel's Keep in Act 3 and it's actually the dungeon. I think that would be really, really cool. And I think that would allow you to have a dungeon for whatever heresy is. As long as we're not fighting Kelgarath again.
Well, I'm wondering if they'll give us a dungeon this season.
So I don't think you're going to get a dungeon this
episode.
I don't think you're getting one this episode, and let me tell you why. One, because just how the acts line up with their release dates. If they give you anything, I think it would be Wrath at the very end of this episode, leading into the next one. I don't think you're going to get a dungeon now, simply because they've never done a dungeon release in the same season, and I know episodes are different than seasons. They've never done one in the same season or episode or whatever that they've released an expansion in. They just put a ton of pinnacle activities in the game. But we need to see how the rest of the episode shakes out first before we start thinking anything. I also feel like we would just kind of know if it was coming at this point. Not that they would have told us, but we would have some inkling, there would be an exotic in the API or something that we haven't seen.
They've gotten. I will give it to them over the past 6 months. They have barring Sony fucking it up, they've stepped up their security a lot. Not as much stuff leaked, except when Sony leaked it, but stuff was kept fairly a lot of the Final Shape stuff was kept fairly.
So the only thing I would add to that is the exotic auto rifle has already been data mined to be coming in 10 weeks. That's the only thing I would add as a rebuttal. That's tied to this episode.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the only thing that kind of throws a wrinkle in it for me. That being said, I don't really care when you give me a dungeon. I as long as the story fits, I don't care. I'm struggling to think of a story on Nessus that would fit. Not that we don't know how this is going to shake out and this and that, but I think that Scorn Vampire Keep and the Dreadnought sound like infinitely more interesting destinations to go put a dungeon on.
Yeah.
Especially if the Dreadnought is going to stick around as a permanent location.
Or if we're going to pilot the Dreadnought in Frontiers.
Dude, I can't even get into speculation about Frontiers just yet. I'm letting that simmer for the summer. We talked about it a little bit on the last episode, but there's just so much we don't know. And I'm part of me is hoping that this is what they were teasing on the roadmap way back when. The redacted that came after the Final Shape that was on the big roadmap that they had, the thing that we used to call Project Goliath. That's what I'm kind of hoping this is morphed into. Just give me back IO. I want IO and I want Scourge back. Those are the 2 things I want back. You guys can keep everything else. Y'all can keep fucking Titan. Give me the strikes on IO back too, because those are really fun.
I want all the strikes back. I I would let them keep the destinations if we got back all the strikes and raids.
So here's the reason why I want the God, I keep saying it's the last thing we're going to talk about. I only want destinations back because I want all the campaigns to be optional downloads again. And
That's fair.
I know that's a very big ask because Destiny is already such a huge game, but I do think we're going to start approaching a point where everything that's not integral to the composition of the game. I think I remember reading somewhere once that the reason why the EDZ and Nessus can't ever be pulled out is because they're so hardwired into the core of Destiny 2 because they were the first two places made.
Yeah.
That they can't actually be removed, which is hilarious that like this one like Bavarian city in Germany just keeps getting shit on constantly.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that that and for the poor Cosmodrome. Um, I would really like to see the old campaigns come back. That was part of my speculation last week is that I think Frontiers alludes to, oh, we're gonna maybe explore some new destinations next year, but also returning content. And if it's the gap year between D2 and whatever the next major expansion is, then I think that would make sense. Oh, you have to use less resources to bring back the old content. You have to update it for the new engine. And I know they've said, oh, we bring D1 content over, we have to completely rebuild it. Bringing back older D2 content, though, it's a little different. We got chances to make changes. If you were to bring back like a destination, an episode, I think that would really be cool. Like, oh, we're reclaiming
That'd be
the
cool.
frontier that we lost to the Witness. Would be kind of a cool way to approach it.
Yeah.
I personally I would have really loved to have seen Mercury come back this season with Echoes. And I mean, there's still time. I'm just saying, Bungie, there's still time. With a Hive season coming up at the end of the season, though, or at the end of the year, I can't help but wonder if Titan comes back. I know that we're getting the Dreadnought, but the Dreadnought is by Titan.
Yeah.
So
It is out there
and
in that
Titan is a
orbit.
very small destination, and we've gotten so much of it back already last year
Yeah.
that I can't help but wonder what if. What if that's the beginning of it, and then next year turns into Echoes turns into Io, um, fucking Mercury, and real Mars.
I would like
There's no reason
OG.
for Mars not to be back. I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
I would like Mars back, and I would also like Venus back. Personally, I loved Venus.
Yeah, Venus, I think, and I mean, like, and if you want to take Frontiers literally, like, your options could be, oh, here's Venus, here's the space station where Elsie originally found the Puka, maybe, and then here's, surprise, surprise. We don't know to what extent the Dreadnought is when it comes back, right? They're saying it's a destination, but like, is it going to be like just a public event area like the Leviathan was, or is it going to be the full Dreadnought? I'm feeling like it's full Dreadnought. If it's full Dreadnought and they remade it, then the possibilities for Frontiers are totally endless. And you could get Venus. You could get D1 Mars. Like, there's so much you could do there. And I'm just fascinated to see what they do. Like, but I mean, we can take this a step further. Like, they have set the seeds for us to go to Reese at some point. They have set the seeds for the reclamation of Tora Bottle. Like, I would love that. Like, maybe the next big expansion is, what if Frontiers is just the next expansion? What if here I'm going to float this to you. What if Frontiers is the next expansion, and it's 2 destinations, and then you have all the seasons that give back the older content?
That would be sick.
It's just you need like a unifying force, and I feel like the conflict with Xivu Arath would be it.
Content.
I mean, I'd be okay. I'd be okay
Oh, no.
with it if it's big. If it's building up to the next saga.
Yeah, I would like. I think it would be really cool if before we actually left, we like put everything back into place and Soul. And I think that would be a cool or like us just kind of helping pick up the pieces before we leave with our dads saying Sane and Osiris.
Yeah,
because that's probably happening.
you and I will fall down a rabbit hole if we keep talking about this. So I'm going to save this for later in the summer when we're inevitably going to need things to talk about. Probably in like 3 or 4 weeks as we come up on Act 2 of episodes. But Joe, thank you for your time today, as always. I appreciate
Always.
that you came and joined me. You and I are the only two that I know that have actually finished this, so I wanted to make sure that we got in here and got some good conversation going. But we have been going for an hour and a half now, and we're gonna put a bow on this. So everybody, thank you for listening. As always, join the Discord, come be a part of the conversation, come be part of the show. We just celebrated episode 200. If this is your first time in, we just celebrated episode 200. We had a really great, sappy episode where Joe and I said a lot of nice things about each other. We said a few nice things about Nerd and Corey, but you know, Joe and I had a bromance going on. It's okay.
Oh yeah. Big
But
time.
until then, we will see you guys Starside.